Hi kawan, welcome to EDCReady. Today we are doing a full review of this guy. This is the CJRB Maileah or Maileah, Maileah. That's what it's spelled. So anyway, it's a knife designed by Swags right here. So her name is Savannah Swaggerty, although you can find her on Instagram as Sharp and Pointy Swags. She's actually quite a prolific knife designer in 2020 and 2021. She's one of the few female knife designers here in the market, and I think that's quite significant when I talk about this review a little bit later on. Regardless, here we have the knife. It is manufactured by CJRB. This is the small version. Now they have a slightly bigger version. This is coming in at just under 2.5 inches. But before all that, I'm going to do a measurement of everything to show you that this is in fact a pretty small knife. Starting with the length of the blade, we have here, let's do this again. Let's zeroize this, change it to inches. We have here a total blade length of 2.37 inches and a cutting edge of about 2.2 inches. We have here a full flat grind, and it goes up to about, what's happening here? Change it to inches, there we go. We have here a full grind that goes up to about 0.77 inches. We have a blade thickness of a very thin, let me try that again, a very thin 0.28 millimeters, or come on inches, come on, work with me here, 0, come on, inches. Whoa, something's happening here. Well, in this situation, we're just going to take the measurements off of the website. It's coming in at 0.09 inches in terms of the blade thickness. The handle length, if I can get this thing to work, is... there we go. The handle length here is coming at about just over 3.1 inches with a maximum width of the whole situation, if I can get this right, at 0.4 inches. And then the total length of it is, the total width of it is 1.12 inches. If it was working just now, if you guys saw it. And then let's do one more dimension, which is the weight dimension. Very important when carrying this in your hand. This here will be in inches. This here will be in ounces, coming in at about 2.2 ounces. Now, for this particular review, I'll be comparing it to another small knife from my collection. We have here the CRJB Razor Cliff, one of my favorite and most used knives of 2022. We're now in 14th January in the year 2023. And then just for the heck of it, I have another Spyderco here. This is my 85 salt, 85 lightweight in salt. So as you can see here, this is quite a small knife comparing it to these guys. Slightly longer than the Razor Cliff. Razor Cliff is about 2-inch knife blade. This is 2.3 inches. And then you have about the entire length of the blade is pretty much the length of the sharpened blade edge of this guy, the 85 salt. Sorry about my calipers, I'll make sure to change his batteries a little bit later on. So now, let's get into the review of this guy from tip to butt. First thing I gotta say is that a few disclaimers. I didn't buy this guy. This guy is borrowed off of my friend. He currently has my Para 3 lightweight, which he is really enjoying, and can't wait to give this back to him so that I can get back my Para 3 lightweight. Another thing about this knife is that since it's designed by a woman, I went around my office and showed it to a bunch of women to get their thoughts, and actually a lot of them feel that this is the most comfortable knife I have in my collection. And I think it has to do with the grips here. The grips here are very small. Okay, zeroize that. The grips here are very small. The grips here are only, the grip length here is only about 63 millimeters, or in inches, 2.5 inches from here to here. And a lot of women find this comfortable for two main reasons. Number one is that you have a nice big finger choil here for your finger to go into. And my hands are quite small, so you can kind of compare them with a lot of women's hands. They get a nice grip in the back, and then they have this pinky that they can put in the back for extra closed ergonomics. So in some knives, you have a lot of like very wide ergonomics, like this guy. Your finger doesn't get into the back, so you can get a full hammer grip. But from what I understand, around the office, the women in my office kind of like this feeling of security, of being able to cover it completely in their hands and hold it like that. They don't mind the fact that there's no real finger choil, although you can choke up. but they do like the fact, and also they like the way it looks, that you have this like gap between your index finger and the blade. And this is great for someone who's maybe a little bit uncomfortable using pocket knives, or someone who has never really used one. They like that bit of distance between here and here. So that's a little survey that I did in my office. A lot of them really like the color. They like the red. You know, it's different from your grays and your blacks and your OD greens that we tend to have here in the knife market for men. But the red really sticks out. They really do like the color. They find it comfortable in hand because they have a little bit more control, being able to completely cover the entire grips. And then they like the about 3/4 of an inch gap that you have from here to here. Makes them feel safer. So that's the survey I went around the office among the women in my office and my wife as well. So the blade here is a steel called, let's see if we can get it here, ARR RPM 9. So this is, to my understanding, a proprietary steel for CJRB. And in my experience using it, I liken it to 14C28N, maybe like 10CR18 MOV or 9CR18 MOV. That's kind of where I place this steel, and this is a very budget knife. This comes in at about, I think, $35 on the for the MSRP on the CJRB website. So it's very much a budget steel for a budget knife, but it's a good budget steel. It is stainless, it's easy to sharpen, it is it's not really going to hold its edge that well, but if you're just using it for day-to-day uses, you can sharpen it up quite easily yourself. It's going to be fine. It's going to be relatively tough as well. So good budget steel. So the edge here, just showing you guys the edge. This is something that my friend sharpened. So this sharpening was not from CJRB themselves, but him as a non-knife fanatic, this is his first knife. And for him as a non-knife aficionado, like a lot of us are, he can sharpen this quite well. And he actually sharpened it quite easily, in my opinion. When I got it from him, it had a semi-mirror polish, which has since gone away since, well, I've been using it. But the blade shape here is that it is a reverse Tanto type situation, and that's a really nice blade shape because you get a little bit of flat and a good amount of shallow belly, and I really like that. I like the shallower belly kind of knives because I like knives that you can do pull cuts, and then this knife shape, this blade shape is actually really good for pull cuts. Couple that with a reverse Tanto, you get a lot of momentum, you get a lot of leverage onto this tip right here because you have this nice flat portion at the top here, and then you can really press down on it because the reverse Tanto with the switch gives it a nice pointy tip right here. The problem with a lot of spear point blades is that sometimes it doesn't really come to a nice sharp edge, but because of the wedge up here, you get to a nice pointy edge up here. If you compare that to the the CRKT Razor Cliff, the Razor Cliff also comes to a nice pointy edge, and by the way, this guy is also sharpened on this edge right here. So it makes a very good pull cut kind of knife. That little bit of belly is also nice if you need to do any kind of rocking cuts, which you might want to do. And just a really great blade shape. I really do like the reverse Tantos. The only other reverse Tanto I kind of like is the Benchmade 940 line. So that's another really nice blade shape. I've never owned one, but I've held one, and it's really good, and I really like this kind of blade shape. Next up, the blade is a full flat grind, so it actually starts off really thin, 0.09 inches according to the website, and it has a tall flat grind. So this guy comes to a very keen edge, a very sharp edge. Couple that with the fact that it has some nice design touches. You can see that it has a swedge up here, it kind of crosses with this swedge here, creating a nice kind of swoop down effect. It has a nice rounded tip up front here, so that you can use your fingertips at the edge here. It's a really well designed, well ergonomically designed blade. Now, I already mentioned that this blade is ARRPM9. It's a budget powder metal steel, and it's also stainless, but it also has this nice coating. The coating has not worn off, and me and my friend that I borrowed this from, we've used it for a lot of box cutting, a lot of Amazon packages, a lot of Shopee packages, a lot of packages in general, and the coating is holding up quite well. So I really like that. Sometimes the coatings can wear off, but this coating is done really well. And the CJRB logo is also etched into the coating really nicely. Very sharp letters, very nice edges, very nice. Moving back a little bit, this jimping here is very nice. Okay, the jimping here, the edges here are kind of rounded off a little bit, you can see there. So you don't get any of those sharp edges that you get on Spyderco knives. You can see here the Native 5 Salt. You get the kind of sharp corners, which definitely gives you more grip. but if you're really bearing down on it, you might get a little bit uncomfortable over time. This guy, on the other hand, has nice round edges on the side, and the jimping goes all the way back, and this is great because it actually accommodates a lot of different hand sizes. You have smaller hands like mine, or a lot of the women in your office, you can grip it like this. Your thumb goes up here, you still get jimping. If you tend to have longer thumbs, you can grip it up here, and you still get jimping. You can even choke it up a little bit right here. You can even choke it up a little bit right here, and then you can even have your thumb up front, and there's still going to be jimping for you to feel. So that's very nice that you have this jimping all the way around. In fact, even up top here, the edges here are rounded, so it's very comfortable to put your finger up top here. Moving back a little bit further, we have some red colored thumb studs for extra red action. You can see here, the coating on the thumb studs actually are going off faster than the coating on the blade, which is interesting in my opinion. I would think the coating on the blade would go off faster, but no, it's the coating on here. But regardless, nice thumb studs. They do stick out from the scales just a little bit, but that means you just get a little bit more grip on it to flick it, reverse flick it. And speaking of flicking, okay, let's talk about this flipper. This flipper is very nice. It's very tall. It's also very chunky, so it's very easy for you to do that kind of action. Very easy to flick it out. You can do the normal lighter technique. That's also very nice. Okay, and then you can also do, hold on, I can't. There we go. I was trying to do the sideways one, but I forgot how to do it under a camera. Okay, I've only ever done it once, but it's not that comfortable to do that. I much prefer that kind of action. And that's unique because I've had front flippers before, and I've always preferred the thumb flick like that. But for this one, it's so comfortable and easy to do the index finger flick that I've been using that more often. And then your finger already gets into a position to use the knife in the way that I prefer it. So that's very nice. Finger choil here, sorry, not finger choil, sharpening choil here is really well done. There's no smile, there's no kiss. It completely goes beyond the plunge grind. It's a little bit too small to choke up, unless you want to choke up like you're doing one of these pinch kind of grips. Then it works, but if not, it's quite small. I have small fingers and I have trouble doing it, so I normally don't do that at all. If I do that, I'm putting my finger on the island here at the front. Okay, moving back a little bit, let's talk about the pivots and the hardware. Pivots are great. This is a T8, and I can't remember, these are T6, yeah, then these are T6s. Non-free spinning pivots all the way around, very easy to take apart, very easy to put back together. In terms of action is great. This is a very, very, very snappy knife. It has a strong detent, okay, it has a strong detent, and then it has a smooth bearing action. It does use ceramic ball bearings caged in, I think, Teflon. So this guy just rockets out. It doesn't matter if you use your thumb, your middle finger flick, or your, there we go, or your front flipper, sorry, got caught in my thumb, or your front flipping action. It just rockets out of there. One thing about this though is that, okay, when I first got it, my friend's never taken this apart to clean it. It was quite gritty because he had it for like 6 months and never cleaned it out. I took it apart, I cleaned it, put some lube, and then it's just so smooth, and it just completely flicks out, and even on the shut, pretty smooth. It does take one shake. It's not like a completely drop shotty knife, but one shake and it closes. One thing about this knife, one bad thing about this knife is that it has actually developed a bit of a lock rock. Hear that? So what's happening there is that there's not enough strong, firm contact between the lock bar and the tang of the blade to the blade and the stop pin right there. Now, this could be fixed, and I've done it before on my QSP, where you actually take this knife apart and then you actually bend the lock bar further inside, because look what happens. See, this lock rock here, I press the lock bar in a little bit deeper and it disappears. This just means it's not like a positive enough contact from the lock bar onto the tang of the blade. I tried to do that, but I was kind of afraid I would snap it because the lock bar is kind of thin, it's kind of narrow. Okay, you can check it out in the disassembly. I was really afraid I was going to snap it, so I just stopped doing it, especially because it's not my knife and I didn't want to buy another one for my friend. But you can definitely fix that, but surprisingly it does happen. It happened to my QSP. It has not happened to any of my other knives, any of my other liner locks I've ever had in my life, from other CRKTs to other QSPs to other Kershaws. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Now, going back to the scales here, we have nice red G10 scales. They are, I would say, like a medium grip G10. It's not like super grippy like the Spyderco G10. In fact, the what brand is this? The Quiet Carry G10 kind of feels the same, kind of feels like it has the same amount of grip as a CJRB, but the CJRB ridges or grips, they're actually a bit thicker than this guy. This guy feels a bit more fine, but you're getting the same amount of gripness compared to this guy. This guy is even more like not smooth, but the ridges here a little bit bigger than this guy. So I would say a good medium amount of grip. It's not like a smooth G10, but it's not as grippy as the Spyderco G10. A good 50-50 amount. Pocket clip, I really like. I really like this pocket clip. This is a pocket clip with countersunk screws, but the clip itself is not countersunk. It makes up for that for being quite high. It's quite a small pocket clip as well, but it still has good retention, and I always carry this in my fifth pocket. In the day where I don't want my pockets to feel very full, I put this in my coin pocket, and this is just like the second most perfect coin pocket knife I have in my collection, second only to the CRKT Razor Cliff. Okay, moving back a little bit. All these edges here are rounded. Even the edges of the scales are nicely rounded, and the edges here are actually smooth. They don't have this kind of roughness that you have on the rest of the handles. It's really smooth back here. Sorry, I'm still recovering from a cold. Really smooth all the way around. You do get like some some inconsistencies in the back spacer here. Okay, some parts of it are a little bit higher raised than the other, so it doesn't feel completely smooth, but it's a $35 knife. I mean, what are you gonna complain about? You have a nice little lanyard loop here that you can't see from the outside. It's from the inside, and the pocket clip is reversible. So do I have anything else I want to cover? The insides of the liners are nicely rounded, sometimes with cheaper knives. Even with Spyderco's, they're FRN. Okay, the insides is quite sharp. Over here, that's quite sharp in there. And even with more expensive knives like the Quiet Carry, the insides here are a little bit more on the sharpened end, on the sharper end. But when CJRB and Swags put this together, they made sure the inside of this knife is also nicely rounded. Full steel liners on the inside. I can't remember if there was any lightweight removal. Nope, there is nothing there that removes lightweight, but it's already a lightweight knife being so small. Couple that with the smoothness of the edges around the G10 and around the inside of the G10. With the kind of design that we have here, this is actually a very ergonomic knife. It's a knife that when you hold, you feel very comfortable. You feel like you're in control because you're gripping the entire pretty much the entire circumference of this back part of the handle right here. And with that jimping, this knife feels very good in hand. Even the back here, all smoothly rounded. A lot of curves, a lot of good ergonomic design that goes into this knife. So very good job to CJRB and for Swags for designing this knife. In conclusion, this is a great little knife. Now I have a few qualms about it. I do wish that it doesn't develop this kind of lock rock, but you can kind of fix that for itself. If they ever come up with the S30 V1, I can get that for my wife. I think she'll really like this. She finds this knife very comfortable in hand. But all in all, nothing really to complain about with this knife. I mean, action's good, steel is good, price is good, blade design is good, handle design is great, it's comfortable, it's confident. This is the only problem about this knife is that if you want a bigger knife, if you're a bigger guy that wants something a little bit more ergonomic, you're going to want to go for this guy. And if you want something that's a little bit slimmer, maybe a little bit more like utilitarian looking or more like aggro looking, you can go for this guy. But this guy is just well designed in terms of aesthetics, in terms of ergonomics, in terms of its overall knife layout pretty much. So this is a really great knife for people with smaller hands, for beginners especially, because you have this gap here between yourself and the blade. Very comfortable for women. It is of course designed by a woman, and to me this is like one of the best fifth pocket knives. Would I carry this as my only knife? Sorry, as my first knife? Yeah, I would definitely carry this as my first knife. But it's not going to be a hardy knife. Like, this is not going to be a knife I want to take into a forest. If it's a rainy day, I'm still taking this guy. If it's me going camping, I'm still taking this guy. If I want to do a lot more fidgeting, I would still take this guy. I am flexing at this point. I am so sorry. Okay guys, so yeah, great fifth carry pocket knife, great knife for women, great knife for beginners, and a great knife for people who really like small knives. That's all I'm going to say. Thanks and stay ready.